Dave Johnson, welcome to the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES 2023. We're coming near to the end of the pandemic, we hope.
Yeah.
Somewhat based on the company that you work for. You must be thrilled working at Moderna. And tell us a little bit about what you do and what your team does at Moderna.
Sure. My name is Dave Johnson. I'm Chief Data and AI Officer at Moderna.
Okay.
So in that function, I'm responsible for all of our enterprise data capabilities. So data analytics, data science, data-related software engineering, and so on. And those are capabilities that we share across the entire enterprise, including research and development. And so my team has part in however we develop our medicines and how we market them commercially. So
Very good. What's your background?
I have a PhD in information physics, which is closely related to data science. And I spent many years in pharmaceutical companies doing R&D consulting around data science and software engineering.
Very good. Tell me about your team at Moderna.
Yeah, so as I said, my team has I have a number of different teams responsible for things like software engineering, liquid handler automation, data analytics, data science. It's spread mostly in the US, but we have some folks in Poland now as well, and we're continuing to grow and expand internationally.
Okay. What's a day look like in your job at Moderna?
Yeah, well, there's no such thing as a typical day at Moderna. We're still a very young, agile, fast-moving company. And so we have to be ready to just pivot fearlessly and do whatever the task is for the day and get the job done. But in general, my team is responsible for delivering these innovative digital solutions to bring the business to the next level, to enable the business to optimize it. And so a lot of my time is spent listening to our key stakeholders throughout the company, working closely with the teams to understand, what are the problems that they're facing. What are the potential solutions? What's the right way to design those solutions? And driving these projects to completion on time, with success. So a lot of my time is spent there, and then a lot of my time is spent on performance management and growth of the team. We really aspire to be top technical talent, so we spend a lot of time around training and development and coaching these folks as well.
Tell me about a career and what a future career looks like within Moderna.
So within my teams, a career looks like we generally have a lot of entry-level technical resources, so software engineers, data analysts, data scientists, and they start as an individual contributor working on projects or a facet of a project, building something, writing something. As their career develops and they learn more and grow more in experience, they take on more and more ownership, owning projects, leading projects. Eventually they'll start to manage teams of people, and then that continues to grow and grow.
Okay. Opportunities for professional development. Have you already had people who grew up in one area and have been able to kind of morph their career into something that's productive for them?
Absolutely. So we like to just push people in the deep end of the pool. We don't believe in people being comfortable at all. And so we always look for how can we push someone to the next challenge of their career. What is a task or a project that can really stretch them? We make sure the manager supports them so that they're not going to fail. That's not what we want, but we want them to stretch and grow. And so there's a lot of it is just that on-the-job training, on-the-job growth, kind of, manager in duress and battle, basically, right? And we also do a lot of work on understanding, where are people's skill gaps. We all come from different backgrounds. A lot of folks in my team have mixed backgrounds. We have mixed healthcare and technical, software backgrounds, right? And so there's gaps on one side or the other there. And so we identify those gaps, we give them kind of directed opportunities, classroom learning, conferences, whatever it is, right? To help them grow and extend in their career.
All right. What is close to your heart is data.
Yes.
And we're here at CES to talk about digital health and wellness.
Yes.
How does data make for better health and wellness in our world today?
Well, you can't improve something that you can't measure, right? And so first and foremost, being able to have data on something, understand what the situation is, that is how you can improve any situation, and I firmly believe that's how you can improve health. Beyond that, and what I think about so much of my job is, we do experiments, we measure things, we run clinical studies, right? And the more and more data and richness of that data that we can get, the better we can predict what's going to happen, the better AI models we can develop, the better we can understand the performance of our drugs. So it's really critical. So rather than just chasing, did this thing improve this one metric, if we can cover more and more data than that, we have a much better understanding of what's going on and maybe have an approach towards more personalized health.
Very good. Moderna is very famous in two areas, one in preventing disease and one in curing disease. From a patient's perspective, the outcomes of those are very different.
Yes.
I get a shot in my arm and I don't get sick versus I'm really sick with a bad disease and I collectively get some kind of administration of medicine and I get better.
Yeah.
That has to be really difficult in the data world to be able to manage those two different types of outcomes. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's interesting in terms of, there's a scale difference as well. So we think of, vaccines, we think of healthy patients, we think of these massive clinical studies. So our COVID study, our phase 3, was 30,000 subjects. Right? That's a lot of people to go through a study. We're doing rare disease studies right now where it's 10 people, 20 people, right? Complete other end of that. And so when we think about systems and collecting data for this, we have to think about systems that can kind of span both of those dimensions. And to a lot of degrees, what we find is that there is more commonality than you might imagine, right? That at the end of the day, you are still running a clinical study, you are still administering medicines to patients, and so those things are all very similar. We're still manufacturing medicine, so we're manufacturing 1 billion doses or 100 doses. We're still doing that and going through those same steps. So a lot of the core infrastructure and components are the same. And I think this is one of the really cool, powerful potentials of mRNA medicine, is that whether we're making a massive vaccine or making a drug for just one person, like in our personalized cancer, it's the same technology and it's largely the same digital systems underneath that helps bring that to market.
Data driving those kind of decisions, one of your very important roles is to be able to communicate what you're getting out of the data. That has changed a lot, and it has changed based on the nature of communication in our world. That's got to be difficult for a data scientist who's used to producing something that is enriching to other scientists or to a technical audience, but now you're speaking to broad audiences in multiple countries. How does that communication piece from the technical knowledge get to meaningful communication to large numbers of people?
It's a great question. It's something we actually talk to our data scientists a lot about, is that you can have the greatest result in the world, but if you can't communicate it, it's meaningless. So that's something we spend a lot of time coaching and training them, even at an individual project level. How do you communicate this role? How do you reach stakeholders who don't necessarily care about all the modeling detail? You don't want to spend an hour going into all the math and stuff. They don't care. They care about the end result. So we have to do a lot of that. And I think when we look at it at the more company global level here, the expectations have changed, right? The world really wants to see data, wants to see the details. And one of the things we're really proud of is we believe in that kind of transparency. When we were running our phase 3 COVID study as well, we made it a point to publish on our website our enrollment statistics for diversity. Because diversity means so much to us. We wanted this study to be reflective of the population. And so we took data that came right out of the systems that we built, the same data that we use for decision making internally. We put it up on our website for everyone to see. And it showed how we had to go through some tough decision making to make sure that trial met what we wanted it to.
Can I ask, is that a standard in the industry?
That is not a standard in the industry. I think we are really pioneers in that. It's a standard for us now. All of our clinical trials, we have this kind of enrollment diversity data across every single study, and we track that, and we give it back to our clinical trial sites as well to show them how they're performing. Like, here's your report. You're lacking on your diversity statistics, so what can we do better?
Very good. Talking about diversity and health equity, again, we have two different types of diseases, infectious diseases and cancers, both core areas that your company is active in. Tell me about the requirements for the scientists to be able to test and track improvements in two very, very different areas.
Yeah, it's interesting, on the vaccine front in particular, there's a great deal of hesitancy in certain communities, and the reasons for that are very different. And we have to meet them with where they are. And so a lot of it comes down towards engagement with those communities, understanding what the challenges they are, and really helping them to be represented in those studies so that when we do have a vaccine that's mass market, right? Everyone goes out, gets the same dose, we have confidence that it's safe and effective in all those populations. When you look at, a therapeutic or rare disease, for example, people are much more willing to take it. Like, you're sick, you're much more willing to take something from that, but we still have to be careful because, diseases are not the same in everybody. They manifest differently, your metabolisms are different, the pathways that are driving the disease in your particular case are different. So it's important for us to make sure that those are represented as well, so that the outcomes that we see in those clinical trials are reflected in those populations.
Very good. Let me ask you to think forward. 10 years from now, there will be a CES. Moderna will likely be here. What will you be talking about in 10 years based on what is occurring today at Moderna?
I think we will be talking about just the broad portfolio of our combined medicines that we have. I mean, where we are right now is at a really interesting inflection point. We have one commercial product, which is our COVID vaccine, but if you look at it, waiting in the wings, numerous other medicines coming, numerous other infectious disease vaccines coming. We have really encouraging recent data on our rare disease portfolio, really encouraging data on our personalized cancer vaccine portfolio. Mm-hmm. These things will all be coming to the market hopefully very soon. So in 10 years from now, we hope to have quite a few of those there. We also hope to start combining these together in ways where you have combinations. So instead of saying, hey, here's your vaccine for flu, here's your vaccine for COVID, here's your vaccine for RSV, and your arm is just covered with needles, right? We're looking to use our technology to combine those in one so that you have one respiratory vaccine for that. And so we're hoping to be able to talk about that kind of novel technology in the next frontiers of what mRNA science can do.
Yeah, and that scenario you just drove to us is reality. Every family that has young children, they go every 2 months and get a new poke in their arm or their leg for the various different named diseases that you're talking about. And what an incredible achievement it would be if there was a way to combine those to provide them in a way that really makes a difference for every child and every parent. And the safety of those well proven. Right. And our ability to wipe out terrible diseases that affect people.
Absolutely, and particularly it's important for adults whose compliance with these vaccines is not great. Yeah. The number of people who get the flu vaccine is very low compared to the number of children who actually follow up because parents make sure they do that. Right. And so anything we can do to make it easier and more convenient for them, if they have one shot to cover you against a wide range of diseases, I think that would be really transformative for health in this country and the world.
And then I'll say, fortunately, at the other end of our life, essentially everybody has to develop a cancer of some type. We are fortunate in our world that we don't have people dying at an early age of infectious diseases, of trauma, of burns. We have a lot fewer injuries. We have a lot less cardiovascular disease. So essentially everybody has the opportunity to grow older and to get cancer. We haven't had the breakthrough developments in cancer treatments the way that you're talking about with Moderna and with the targeted types of vaccines. That has to be thrilling within the company, and really world game changing.
Yeah, it's so exciting. People talk about our COVID vaccine and we're like, oh, that was easy, right? It was one antigen, it's one dose except for the boosters, right? And it's a tiny little amount of it, right? And when you look at some of the other things we're working on, it's so much more complex. Multi-antigen, repeat dosing, complex diseases like cancer. And the reality is that cancer is hard, right? It's your own body, your own DNA malfunctioning. It's much harder for your immune system to recognize that it's foreign. And so, I personally and my team worked really closely on this PCV program because there's a huge amount of digital systems to integrate what's going on at the clinic, what's going on with manufacturing. There's AI algorithms at the core of this thing that take a patient's unique DNA mutations that we get through next-gen sequencing and say, predict which of those are going to show up on the surface of the cell and which of those we want to target to design an mRNA vaccine for that particular patient's cancer, right? And we get it to them in an incredibly short period of time. And so we've been waiting for a long time for these results. So seeing the results come through and seeing how strong they were, the 44% reduction in death or recurrence
Wow.
of the disease against Keytruda alone is just phenomenal, right? And, you know, we were all, you know, shouting because we didn't believe it would be that good, you know, and because cancer is such a challenging disease. And so I think it's just a really exciting moment for us. It's an exciting moment for the industry to think about this new potential for what we can do for oncology.
Very good. Dave, thanks for taking some time to share with us at CES what's going on at Moderna. Best of luck with your future work.
Thank you so much.
Please be ready in 10 years to come back and tell us about those successes.
We'll be there. We'll be here. All right. Thanks, Jim.